You're looking at Target Center as Prep45.com proudly presents the Minnesota State High School League Girls Basketball Tournament quarterfinal round. I'm Mike Beaton, joined by Alex Nagel, and we've got a great game coming up for you. The number 4 seed Eastview Lightning take on
St. Michael-Albertville.
Yes, they take on St. Michael-Albertville. We had a bit of a tech issue for a second, but we're good. Had a menu pop up. But we are okay. We've got everything under control. So Eastview coming in as the number 4 seed. St. Michael-Albertville unseeded. It gets a high school league rule. They don't seed 5 through 8 like they used to. A little strange, but we got to go with the rules that are in place. But whoever wins this game will likely be a heavy underdog to Hopkins, the heavy favorite to win the Class 4A state title. But right now they can't worry about how we're going to handle against Hopkins. The first objective is moving on to the semifinal round.
Exactly, and I had the opportunity to watch Eastview this last week, Mike, when they had to stave off a very gamey and very determined Park of Cottage Grove team in the section final. That was a great game to watch, and Eastview looked like they were in control in that game, and then Park made a charge. In fact, Park got ahead late, but Eastview, with their experience, they've been here before, of course, and they righted the ship and managed to hang on and get the win and get here. And
the big thing with Eastview and that section final against Park of Cottage Grove, I talked to their head coach yesterday, and she highlighted the play of Megan Ryan. Melissa Giebert is the head coach for Eastview, taking place of Paul Gates, who is an assistant coach this year. She said Ryan had a huge game, normally quiet, but she said what helps the Eastview team is while her daughter Madison Giebert provides most of the scoring, each night a different senior or two or another teammate steps up and gives her support.
I think the amazing thing, you talk about Madison Giebert, only a freshman, Mike, and she's out there and she looks way more experienced than a freshman.
And I talked about that with Melissa Giebert last night, and she said Madison is familiar with people around her age, proved herself to that bracket. Michelle Giebert, Melissa Giebert, I'm going to get these names mixed up, oh my goodness. I need more sleep. But Melissa Giebert was the coach of Eastview's traveling team in the summer, and so Madison got a lot of minutes that way. So the two knew of Madison's capabilities, and she said as soon as she stepped on the court, her teammates have vouched for her. There's no animosity, no cliques, no egos. And if Madison gets into a shooting rut, her teammates are there to encourage her, just to tell her keep shooting. And as anyone will tell you, the best way for shooters to solve any type of shooting funk is to continue.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, she's got a very good cast support as well, Mike. It's not all Madison Giebert.
No, sirree. We'll talk a little bit more about Eastview as we go along, but first let's go to the starting lineups as they're being introduced. For St. Michael-Albertville, number 31, Christine Thorne at guard. Number 55, Rachel Valley at forward. Number 4, Carissa Pazin at forward. Number 21, Jordan Hansen at guard. And number 22, Natalie Van Wy at guard. Eastview's starting 5. Number 33, Emily Young at forward. Number 45, Amber Mayer at forward. Number 4, Megan Ryan at guard. Number 3, Paige Malkovich at guard. And number 22, Madison Giebert at guard. And you said you got to see Eastview and Park in that section final. Why don't you elaborate on that a little more for us, just to give us an idea of what we should expect out of the Lightning today?
Well, Mike, this Eastview team is a very athletic team. They've got experience. They've been on the stage before. They have players who know what it takes to win. The one thing I like about this Eastview team is the continuity they've had over the years. You look at Amber Mayer, of course, the younger sister of Sam Mayer, who started Eastview here a few years back, so she knows what it's like here. Of course, we already talked about Madison Giebert. But, this is a team that also has a very experienced coaching staff as well. Melissa Giebert, of course, the head coach. Paul Gates, who was the head coach here until he took the assistant's job so he could watch his son play more. So, you like this team. I mean, they know what it takes to win. They're very experienced, and I think you have to like their chances in this contest against St. Michael-Albertville.
Eastview making its 5th state tournament appearance. They have not reached the Big Dance since 2008 when they lost, I believe, to St. Paul Central in the semifinal round.
Of course, STMA, no stranger to this stage as well. They've been here before. Of course, they've more notably on the Class 3A stage when they've won it here before.
They moved up to 4A in 2010. They're making their 5th state tournament appearance as well. They won the state tournament title in Class 3A in their final year as a 3A member, beating Minneapolis North, which featured a lot of young players from the current 3A powerhouse, De La Salle. So St. Michael-Albertville moving up in Class 4A, and here they are back at the state tournament. So and the upgrade was not a difficult one.
No, it sure hasn't been. They're here, and it's going to be interesting to see how they handle this Eastview team here today, Mike.
And if you're looking at players, the key matchup is going to be Madison Giebert and Christine Thorne. Both lead their teams in scoring. Thorne at 16.4 points per game, and for Eastview, Giebert averaging 18 a game. And next on the list is Amber Merritt, 10.9. So again, Eastview doesn't have a ton of balanced scoring, but she said it doesn't really matter who scores, and any coach will tell you as long as you get the W, as long as you move on, it doesn't matter who has the most points.
Yeah, and Madison Giebert, of course, stepped into the role that Jen Doctor had for a few years. Jen Doctor, of course, now at St. Thomas.
And I wonder where she's going. I heard she's going to Holland this weekend.
Yeah, Holland, Michigan for the Final Four, along with her St. Thomas teammates, representing the MIAC very well this year.
First time they have reached the Final Four in 12 years, and like you mentioned, Doctor was on this team a year ago, and Eastview always a solid team, but the last couple of years they were in a pretty loaded section. They had to deal with, I believe Lakeville North is in that section, and a lot of South Suburban Conference teams now. Looking at the two teams, they don't have a lot of common opponents with St. Michael-Albertville and the Mississippi 8 Eastview in the South Suburban Conference. Their only common opponent this season was Bloomington Jefferson, or Bloomington Kennedy, and that game, St. Michael-Albertville was blown away 82-28. And for Eastview, as we get things rolling here, they were split the season series with Kennedy. Eastview with the first possession of the game. That's Paige Palkovich. And you're hearing all the action on the floor thanks to our basket. Mike Palkovich is going to the line as she got hacked. We're just underway in this quarterfinal round. Eastview wearing the black jerseys, being the home team. St. Michael-Albertville wearing the white jerseys.
Palkovich, the 5'8" senior from this Lightning squad, very experienced.
Palkovich shooting a little over 70% this season from the free throw line. Bricks both. Missed opportunity there.
Well, of course, we saw in that last game how poor free throw shooting can cost a team, particularly Lakeville North in that loss in that first half.
And from the looks of it, no one seems to believe that Hopkins is going to be derailed in their quest for a state title. But we got to play the games out. We have seen upsets before. And getting the bank, a friendly bounce is Jordan Hansen, number 21. St. Michael-Albertville edged a close one with Buffalo, who is also a perennial contender in their section, 58-55 to qualify to the state tournament quarterfinal. In a perfect day to be indoors. Heard the high could be 75 degrees today. It's going to be a record, that's for sure. And I'm kind of wondering, why can't we play outside? Missing the J was number 22, Madison Giebert, and a turnover on St. Michael-Albertville.
Or at least open up the roof a little bit.
That might be a problem. This place has a green roof.
Yeah.
There might be a lot of soil and foliage that would come down. It would get quite messy. For three. Megan Ryan with the tray, and Eastview on the board, 3-2. 16:30 left in the first half. We're doing our best to get some names down here. Van Wy out to Christine Thorne, going inside the Valley, gets the floater.
Nice turnaround shot there.
Valley with the first basket, 4-3 in favor of the Knights. Ryan on the right wing again, goes back to Palkovich. They talk about Giebert kind of running point guard duties, and it seems Palkovich is going to take that role for now. That's Giebert, and she buries the tray from the left wing. So Eastview starting out with 2 3-pointers, trying to get that outside shot established, extending the defense. Van Wy over to 23. That's Courtney Rottenberger, so already a substitution made by Hamry, the head coach of St. Michael-Albertville, and missing the runner is Christine Thorne, but it was picked up by Van Wy. There is no shot clock, so you don't have to worry about resetting or getting a shot off in time. No immediate timeouts either, so we're going to play with standard rules. That changes starting in the semifinal round when Channel 45 takes over, but they've got a few bills to pay. Lining up and switching the J for Eastview is Emily Young. And Eastview taking an 8-4 lead. And backdoor play is successful. Christine Thorne scores. It's 8-6 in favor of the Lightning. Eastview, no strangers to the state tournament. Their boys soccer team reached the final round this year. They lost to Eden Prairie in the Class 2A final. Young, rejected. Put back is good by Megan Ryan.
Number 4, Ryan.
Hansen trying to drive, and it's off of Eastview.
Megan Ryan, I'll tell you, Mike, she has a knack for seeming to be in the right place at the right time.
Number 4, replacing Rotenberger.
Valley back in, moves around the block, can't do it. In the game is Payson back in for the Knights. Lining up the 3, and in and out is Thorne. Here comes Palkovich, driving, and she's blocked. But a blocking foul was called, free throws are coming. Palkovich missed her first 2.
I think that's going to go on Natalie Van Wy.
Eastview started out the season struggling a little bit. They won their opening tournament at Hamlin, the Pat Patterson Thanksgiving tip-off, by blowing out Prairie Seeds, who made it to the Section A final before they got blown out in turn by Maranatha Christian. And they also had a victory over White Bear Lake, 42-30, which you definitely want to take note of should the brackets play out, as Palkovich makes both free throws, and Eastview and White Bear Lake play each other.
Yep. Actually, that foul went on Valley, number 55.
That's her first personal, and a steal by the Lightning. Giebert driving, yes! And a timeout called by Kent Hamry. Eastview up 14-6 with 13:28 remaining in the first half.
Gutsy play by the freshman, showing no fear here early on, and just like last week in the section final against Park, Eastview gets out to a very good start.
And speaking of Eastview, one reason why they've gotten to this tournament, when I spoke with Melissa Giebert yesterday, is that each of the captains on the team bring a different personality to the roster. They're not similar. I guess it's one of those things where it's great minds think for themselves as opposed to the old adage, great minds think alike. And because of that, the combination of quiet, funny, and super competitive attitudes draw on everybody. You don't have to worry about, is this team competitive enough to win? Are they loose enough, and are they focused enough?
Well, great chemistry always plays a big factor in great teams, Mike.
Thorne inside. And missing the layup is 21, Jordan Hansen. Here comes Giebert. Out to Ryan. Emily Young, guarded by Valley. Tried to go to Ryan on the baseline, but she was picked off by Payson. Thorne on the right wing. Off to Hansen. Hansen still can't get the layup down. Eastview slowing things down a bit. Well, not bad for Melissa Giebert in her first season to make a state tournament appearance.
No.
Mayer misses from the top of the key. Offensive rebound, Palkovich. And Eastview resetting. Paul Gates, who is an assistant coach, will leave after this season to spend more time with his son. He's going to be following his journey a little bit more. And so this is the transition year. Gates helping out Giebert and passing the torch, which I think is a great mentality to have. You know you're going to be leaving, but you hang around.
Yeah. And I'm sure that Melissa Giebert enjoys drawing on the experience that Paul Gates has.
I'm sure Jenna Doctor could vouch for that.
Yep.
What a great run for that St. Thomas team. And a turnover, Amber Mayer could not haul in the pass. Great run by that St. Thomas team. They were ranked at number 10, but until their regional final when they beat Calvin, hadn't beaten a ranked opponent all year.
Yeah.
There was some doubt about how far could St. Thomas go, but I had the chance to see them against Bethel in the regular season and in the first 2 rounds against Martin Luther and Co., and it's no fluke.
No, they're as good as advertised.
Foul. Hansen is hacked, and she will go to the free throw line.
Important here to cash in on these free throws here. Down 8.
Hansen, a 61% free throw shooter, gets the front end. The foul was assessed to Tyra Johnson. She's one of the first players off the bench for Eastview, averages 6.5 points per game. Missing the back end. 14-7. No, it's not a football score, it's a basketball score, but we're still early in the first half. But a lot more offense than we saw in the first game today.
Yeah.
17-12 was the halftime score with Hopkins and Lakeville North, and I swear I was watching a football game for a moment. Mayer out to Giebert, over to Tyra Johnson. Melissa Giebert's hoping that Tyra Johnson can provide a little more consistency next season with big games. She wants to get her some significant minutes in this tournament. Prefers the outside game. And drawing the foul is Thorne. And she's a solid free throw shooter, 78%.
Great move by Thorne along the baseline there, taking it to the rim and drawing the foul in the process and getting to the line. So another chance here for St. Michael-Albertville.
Johnson going out, Young going back in, and in the game for Eastview is Michaela Wilson, number 5. She's a 5'7" junior guard. Also coming in for St. Michael-Albertville, Natalie Van Wy is back in. Swish for Christine Thorne. And St. Michael-Albertville not being too capitalistic on the free throws, at least not yet. They only trail by 6, though. Giebert, baseline drive is no good, and it's picked up by Nicole Westrom. Van Wy out to Hansen for 3, off the rim. Rebound, Mayer. Amber Mayer had more of a supporting role last year, having that senior core of the Jenna Doctor and the Beckman twins, although Amanda suffered an injury that took her out for most of the season. You'll find a lot of good basketball, though, in the conference they represent, the South Suburban, as Thorne, yes, got the turnover. Didn't get the steal, but a turnover is still good defense.
I tell you,
Michael-Albertville.
Christine Thorne, the 5'7" senior, being very active on both ends of the court here, Mike, in the early going.
This is Payson. A little bump from Young, but no call. Payson lines up the J. Off the rim. Jump ball. Possession arrow favors St. Michael-Albertville.
Possession to the Knights.
A little more information about St. Michael-Albertville. This has been a very common theme, actually, in the coaches I've talked to and the media guide. Defense.
Yeah.
You know of the old adage, defense wins championships, but every coach I've talked to said we pride ourselves on defense. So for any of you watching at home on Prep 45, take notes. Speaking of defense, Amber Mayer comes up with a steal as Thorne was stuck in traffic. Speaking of Thorne, she crossed over 1,000 points earlier this season. And while that seems to be a very common feat in high school basketball, it's still a noteworthy cause, but I think in terms of scoring, a lot of focus will be on tonight's 2A game with Bram. And Rebecca Dahlman, 22 points away from breaking Taylor Hill's all-time record. And I don't hear any controversy this time about scoring.
No.
If you don't know what we're talking about, as Wilson's at the line, makes the first. Taylor Hill finished with 38-88, but there was a score discrepancy between Minneapolis South and recruiters like Kevin Anderson, or not recruiters, but statisticians.
Yeah.
And ultimately the high school league settled it at 38-88, but I talked a little bit to Taylor Hill about that earlier this season when Ohio State was making their big run. Hang on, we've got a steal by Thorne, one-on-one, drives, and is fouled.
Well, Thorne did the smart thing there, Mike. She knew she had the steal. She had a chance. At the very least, she knew she was going to get fouled and go to the charity stripe, and that's where she's at. Go ahead and continue about Taylor Hill.
I will in a second, but Thorne's at the free throw line. Thorne and Rachel Valley are the only two players left from that 2009 championship team, hoping to bookend their high school careers with another one. Thorne will play at the University of Minnesota Crookston next year, a Division II member. And Thorne is one of two. And to finish up on Taylor Hill's story, I talked to her about that, and she credited her athletic director, Mark Sanders, and her faith for guiding her through these messes that were none of which were her own doing.
Yeah.
And that's really tough. Giebert for three. Yes!
Bam.
3-point basket by Giebert.
18-9. Thorne with the response, no good. Rebound, Wilson. Madison Giebert subbed in during some summer league practices last year. And as we talked about, teammates vouched for her at point guard after they saw what she could do this last summer. And Ryan is too strong. A lot of control. And unable to hold the rebound is Hansen. Van Wy and Palkovich going back in for the Lightning. Eastview will maintain possession.
Number 3, back in for Eastview.
Foul, and one.
Well, Paige Palkovich, being, shall I say in this case, only 5'8", does a very good job of being active down low. She's not afraid to mix it up with the bigger girls.
The foul was ruled before the shot, so Palkovich back at the free throw line. She is now 2 of 5. Palkovich will play softball next year at the University of Minnesota. Described as a versatile athlete and position player, she pitches for the Eastview softball team, but Melissa does not believe she will carry that role when she puts on the maroon and gold next year. That being said, Van Wy misses the three. Rebound Palkovich. That being said, Giebert told me Palkovich will accept any role that is assigned to her. So if they ever build a Starship Enterprise, we'll have to see if Palkovich is willing to take on the captain's role.
Well, she's certainly done so here on the hardwood, Mike, with this Eastview Lightning squad.
And
the time that she's been there.
Steal by Mackenzie Bebo, number 5 in the game for St. Michael-Albertville. And here's Van Wy. Mackenzie Bebo, averaging 2.4 points per game. Bebo tripped up and losing the ball, not for long. We've got jump ball, Eastview with the possession arrow. I wasn't sure what was going to be called out of that.
Well, Bebo ran into a little traffic down there, got tied up and lost the ball. One thing when you're down here, especially on this stage, you're now double digits, you've got to value that rock, Mike.
Young out to Mayer, in and out. 19-9 the score in favor of Eastview. Winner plays Hopkins and faces a daunting assignment. But as we saw earlier this season, Hopkins is vulnerable. They're almost impenetrable, though. It's going to take a lot of good things to happen. Ooh, Thorne was bumped and no foul was called. Officials let it go. Giebert setting up the offense. We see her taking the point guard role now. Mayer is tied up, and St. Michael-Albertville can't haul it in time.
Mayer did a good job. That pass is just a little high, and she had to try and balance it with one hand. Very lucky that she didn't lose that one out of bounds.
Hannah Shai going back in for the Lightning. I believe that's her first appearance, actually. Jordan Hansen going back in for St. Michael-Albertville. Eastview located in Apple Valley, and Paige Palkovich committed, as Tony Gear would call it, one of the worst passes you can make in high school basketball, and that is passing to the opposing bench.
That almost looked deliberate, almost the way it was, although it was an obvious mistake.
Miscommunication.
Yep.
But Palkovich will shake it off. Westrom out to Thorne. And Young bumps Westrom. Eastview has 3 fouls to give. Now they have 2. 6:12 remaining in the first.
Eastview foul Young, number 33, her first, 14th foul of the Lightning.
Ryan going back in. And we're hoping to have a special guest with us at halftime. We expect it, but we're not quite sure yet, so until we get that confirmed, I won't say who, but keep your eyes peeled for halftime.
You always have a way of keeping me in suspense, Mike.
Yes, I do. Well, I got to keep things interesting. I've been here since 8 in the morning. I got 3 hours of sleep. If I don't do that, I'm going to doze off. Ryan taking her time. Palkovich driving to the paint, can't get the left-handed layup, but with the offensive rebound and putback is Hannah Shee, and she gets on the board.
And that's one thing that STMA cannot afford, Mike, giving Eastview second and third chances.
Pass deflected and stolen by Shee. Well, that's Hannah Shai, I should say, and Palkovich puts it down. Palkovich with 5.
Great first half for Palkovich.
Balanced scoring altogether for Eastview, and that's exactly what Melissa Giebert wants.
Yep.
A foul is called, though, on the Lightning.
Eastview foul, Young, number 33, her second, 15th foul on the Lightning.
It's on Young, her second personal. Eastview with 1 to give. 4:53 left in the first half.
Bree Grube, the 6'3" junior post player for St. Michael-Albertville, has just checked in.
For the Knights back in the game, Payson, number 4.
Payson back in for the Knights. Inbounding is Van Wy. She can't find a target. And St. Michael-Albertville lucky they bounced it off an Eastview player to keep possession. That was very close.
St. Michael-Albertville having all kinds of problems on their half-court offense right now, Mike.
Yes, indeed. Hansen. Eastview doing a great job clogging the paint.
Yep.
I saw 4 black jerseys, and it's going to be tough to get anything down there, unless you're Simone Augustus.
Yeah.
But she won't be playing on this court for another couple months. Van Wy gets the kiss off the glass.
22, Van Wy scoring.
And Ken Henry calls another timeout with 4:10 left. Interesting call here. What do you suppose would lead Henry to call another timeout?
I think maybe that he just wants to get his team settled down a little bit. You know, he saw something that he didn't like, particularly on the half-court end, and wants to see if he can get those miscues straightened out a little bit and perhaps make some adjustments on defense as well, Mike.
Well, St. Michael-Albertville can win a marathon if we go to one. Thorne, Van Wy, and Westrom, Riley Hansen, Tori Hamry, all members of the varsity team, all ran cross country in the fall and made it to state in that tournament. Of course, once the agreement and contract continues, we're going to cover every single tournament on Prep 45, including cross country.
Well, when you get to this stage, you better have good legs, and STMA has just that.
And someone notable, we can't quite point him out for you, but Matt Spaeth, who is a tight end for the Chicago Bears, in attendance for this tournament. Matt Spaeth originally was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we do have a confirmation. Cheryl Reeve, the head coach of the Minnesota Lynx, will be joining us at halftime. Of course, the Minnesota Lynx work in this very building.
And won a championship last year doing so. Their very first.
And the first title of any kind in 20 years for the state. That was the talk of the town, of course. So we'll have her on for a few minutes. But right now we've got 3 minutes and 50 seconds left. And missing the three-pointer was Giebert. And a foul on the loose ball. It's on Eastview again. They had one to give.
A chance here now for St. Michael-Albertville, down 12 here with 3:46 left. A chance to whittle away at this week lead and get it down to the single digits here, Mike.
55 Valley back in the game for the Knights.
Not sure who the foul was on. But if you're STMA, you may want to consider attacking. I know the lane has been difficult, but if you can find a space, maybe draw a foul, get some free throws. Hansen looking for it, but Eastview is saying, no way, we're not letting you inside. And Madison Giebert with the steal. She has numbers if she pursues. She's going for it and gets the layup.
22, Giebert.
Giebert with 10. Are you sure this kid's a freshman? And a reach-in foul on Ryan, and free throws coming for the Knights.
Like I said, Giebert, she may be a freshman, but she certainly does not play like it.
Eastview foul, Ryan number 4, her first 17th foul.
The foul is on Ryan, as we mentioned. That is her first personal.
Bevo number 5 back in the game for the Knights. Big 2, Van Wy. At the line, shooting 1-1.
Hansen. That's Van Wy shooting 1-1, and she misses the front end. So St. Michael-Albertville comes up empty when they can't afford to. If we get to this point, I don't believe we will, but it's worth noting the mercy rule does not go into effect in the state tournament bracket. Again, it's only of concern if a team goes up by 35 or more.
Yeah.
Palkovich making a baseline drive and draws the foul. That was a close call.
Well, another great move by Paige Palkovich getting to the line.
And Payson is talking to the officials. What, me?
Chance here now
The
for
foul was
Eastview.
assessed to Valley, and that's what happened. Valley bumped her.
Chance now for Eastview to extend that lead.
Paige Balkovich, the only player at the free throw line so far for Eastview, but she's getting the job done.
One is the rim.
And almost a three-point play. But Shy could not put it in. Van Wy on the drive, goes to the paint, and she draws the foul. She got bailed out there. I thought she stopped the dribble just a little too early.
Yeah, and that's what STMA exactly has to do, Mike. They've got to be able to penetrate, whether it's in the half court or in transition. They've got to find a way to be able to penetrate and get to the rim and hopefully draw some fouls.
Van Wy, a 51% free throw shooter.
When missed free throws have really plagued this STMA team in this first half. There was another one.
One with the rim.
And she leaves them empty. The Knights have left a lot of free throws empty. That could haunt them in the second half should they make a run. But it's possible. In the game is Bailey Pickering for the Lightning, number 10. I saw last night in the first round of the NCAA tournament, Pickering is fouled. STMA had one to give. Iona was up by 25 points over Brigham Young University.
Yeah.
And perhaps one of the most epic collapses we have seen in tournament history. Brigham Young comes back, wins 78-72 after Iona scored 55 points in the first half. And then conversely, Western Kentucky down by 16 with 4.5 minutes left over Mississippi Valley State, and they come back to win. Not quite that level of parity here in girls basketball, but we've seen some strange things. Well, for example, St. Paul Central back in 2008, they weren't favored to win the title.
And yet they did.
They beat Minneapolis South. They weren't that much of an underdog, but that's not the point.
I don't think many people would have expected that.
Since then, as Payson is fouled, she'll go to the line. Since then, things have followed more according to script in the 4A bracket. 3A has been the more wild bracket in the last few years. I mean, you had De La Salle beating Hill Murray last year in the final, and people expected that, but De La Salle having some losses.
Yeah.
Payson missing the first. Payson, a 50% free throw shooter.
And this free throw shooting by STMA just got to be causing head coach Kent Hamry to break out the Pepto-Bismol here, Mike. I don't know.
You like that Pepto-Bismol line, don't you? That's okay, I've got a few one-liners. Pickering on the inside feed to Johnson, but she's wrapped up. Escapes. Good play by Eastview, but they throw it away anyway. Valley on the steal. Thorne out to Van Wy. Thought about a three. Finds an open Bebo, and she gets it off the backboard. Payson picks it up. Thorne for three. No good. Rebound Johnson. Less than a minute to play in the first half. Deflected. Eastview keeps it. We talk about the Wild 3A bracket. Of course, Minneapolis North had that young team in 09. St. Michael-Albertville won it. 2008 belonged to Totino Grace.
Yep.
But the craziest I've seen in recent years would have to be the 2010 final, and Benilde St. Margaret's winning in the final minute.
Yeah.
.40 seconds. Will Eastview hope for the final shot, or will they go for it? Palkovich kicks out. Ryan's not going to wait. And can't get the bounce. Rebound Payson. St. Michael-Albertville could hold for the final shot if they wish. 25 seconds. Thorne's not going to wait either. I'm surprised that how eager these teams are. You know, there's no shot clock. I would maybe hold for the final shot.
Well, especially down 14 points
and
here.
a traveling violation on Giebert. Good defense by Thorne. And St. Michael-Albertville will have time for another shot. 6.8, plenty of time as they will inbound from the half-court line. Didn't mean to jump on you.
No, I was just going to say, you know, down double digits here, I think you would want to make the most of you know, one of your last possessions. So now they get one more chance.
3 seconds.
Oh.
And a costly foul on Hannah Shy. St. Michael-Albertville in the double bonus. So 2 free throws here. And Van Wy gets the first one to go down. Eastview will have time for one more shot, 3.2. Not a lot of time, but I've seen some crazy half-court shots go in, including Tessa Sitchie. And getting the friendly bounce on the second attempt. Van Wy will be sending a thank you card to the rim, and I don't think Eastview's going to have time for a shot here. No, they're content to hold. Eastview with a 26-14 lead at halftime. And we're going to make a quick exchange here. Alex will join us later on, but now we're going to bring on Cheryl Reeve, head coach of the defending champion Minnesota Lynx of the WNBA. Cheryl, thank you for stopping by.
Sure, thanks for having me, Mike. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you again. I know you've been scouting the college circuit lately. I know tournament's about to start this weekend, so what have you been looking at for the upcoming draft?
Well, you know, more than anything, our focus this offseason was to try to keep a core group intact, and we were able to do that through free agency. We re-signed Candace Wiggins, who was a big decision, you know, in terms of her looking at some other teams, and we're able to get her back into it. And then, you know, we signed free agent Erin Thorne, and then now we're looking at, as far as the draft, just looking for somebody that can kind of come and fit into our group. You know, we've already got a solid nucleus. We've got a great thing going with our chemistry. So there'll be some intangible sorts of things that we'll be considering there.
Now, you're not negotiating any kind of secret traits to get the #1 pick. You happy with the 3, or we're going to see it?
Well, I think there's always, you know, Mike, as you know, with the draft, and when anytime you don't have #1, you're always looking to move up. So, you know, I think that there's, you know, some opportunities that, you know, from an asset standpoint that we have that maybe other teams don't have, that we could be in position to make a strong move. But it's really not necessary for us. As you know, as we mentioned, our group is intact, and we're really happy with the group that we have.
And speaking of that group, a lot of talk was made about how many players you brought back. Taj is returning. You signed Candace Wiggins. And all the players that were up in the air, Jessica Adair, they all came back, and you're going to have 9 players from last year's team back for next year. How does that help keep consistency going? And off of that, how do you keep the team fresh so that other teams don't come in and think, oh, we know how to beat this team because we've seen them play before?
Well, that's the big challenge, Mike. We're going to have to see if we're going to be able to come out of the gate strong and establish that tone, you know, that we are coming at this season to with a goal, a very strong goal of repeating as WNBA champions. It has not been done since 2001, 2002, since the LA Sparks did it. So it's obviously a challenge. You know, I've been a part of teams that won a championship and weren't able to repeat. You know, in 06 in Detroit, we won it. 07, we got back to the finals, but lost in Game 5 at home. And then won it again in 08, but were unable to repeat in 09. So, you know, it's a challenge, and we know it. And, you know, I think our group is going to feel very motivated by that. So they've got a lot of pride, and it'll be great fun to do it again.
I know you talked about waiting to get that new ring of yours as head coach, which will be coming soon. And going again off of that core, what do you look forward to with this upcoming year? I know there's the Olympic break, which is going to throw the timing off a little bit. Lynx figure to have 3, maybe 4 players on the Olympic roster this summer. So what's the mood knowing that you're going to be stopping for a month while some players represent the United States?
Well, you know, I've been a part of the league for a long time, so it's something that I'm really accustomed to. I think most of the players that have been around, they're accustomed to it, you know, as far as the veterans. It's the younger ones that'll be kind of new for them. You know, they'll get a break in the action, which, you know, they haven't had in previous seasons. So it's one of those things I think that they'll look at optimistically in terms of, you know, being able to rest their bodies for a period of time. And you know, and from a coaching perspective, certainly with the shortened training camp as far as getting players back from Europe, at that midpoint, we'll be able to fine-tune some things maybe we weren't able to do in training camp.
Now, I want to mention this. In Game 1 of the finals last year, you brought in several high school teams. Actually, you brought in all the champions for a pregame ceremony, so we got to see De La Salle and Bram and Hopkins and Maranatha make a second hurrah to Target Center. And so what has been the Lynx mission statement in trying to reach out to these high school players, maybe provide some role models for them? Because after the title last year, Simone Augustus, Maya Moore, Lindsay Whalen all became household names.
They really did, and it was a lot of fun. I think there was the awareness for the Minnesota Lynx, certainly throughout Minnesota. I think what it did was it just took us to another notch in terms of, as you mentioned, a household name and actually being talked about. And I think what you saw was people leave their homes and come out to the Target Center to support it, and whether they came to the parade or whether they came to, any point in the playoffs. But certainly the finals was just a great showing. And I think for us, this crowd that you have here that are watching the Minnesota State Girls Tournament, it's important. It's the core of our base. That is, the biggest fan of women's basketball. The families that are supporting these girls that are competing in the tournament, and whether it's in a tournament or all high schools. So the high school group is really the grassroots efforts of the WNBA.
I know you haven't been around here for too long, but you could elaborate on the talent, because we've seen a lot of great players come from here. Of course, we have Whalen going a few years back, and last few years, Angel Robinson, who was drafted, didn't make it to the final roster, but got in. Taylor Hill is making big waves at Ohio State, and just a lot of great talent coming out of the state.
Yeah, it's no question. There's a strong recruiting base in this area. I think for Pam, my understanding is obviously they got Bantam. My understanding there's a couple coming up that have committed or are close to committing, and so as a college coach, when this is your recruiting base, it feels pretty good. And for someone like Lindsay Whalen, who just raised the bar for the state, she's special. And I know that there's talk of Bantam and Lindsay Whalen in the same breath, and that'll be neat to kind of see how she progresses. And I don't think anyone will ever supplant Whalen from being Minnesota's daughter.
I doubt that. Speaking of the daughter or something, why don't you describe the offseason in general for you? Obviously, you've been scouting, but what's been the reaction like when people have stopped you? After the hoopla ended with this title, and all of a sudden people were surprised. First championship in 20 years, and it happens to be a women's basketball team.
Well, it was really neat. It was really neat to see the support, not only during the course of the tournament or through the course of the championship and the playoffs. What we saw following, as our players went over to Europe, and I was able to stay here throughout the off season, the recognition, just the number of thank yous that we've gotten, for people to say thank you for bringing, a title to Minnesota, and really, really proud of us. And we were happy to do it, and we're anxious for the other teams. Minnesota Timberwolves are playing well, and they got to keep that going. I'd love to see them in the playoff hunt, and it's just one of those things that it just I think it creates momentum and it creates pride, and I think for us, the awareness has always been there for the Minnesota Lynx, but now the actual transition of not just being aware but coming out and supporting it by watching games.
And last question, because we're almost done with the intermission. I know you want to repeat, but what else are you looking forward to this next season? You got through the kinks, you went through that rough spell in 2010, came out on top in 2011. Just what's next on that learning curve for you? Well,
I think the progression, I think the area, that people are telling me, well, yeah, but Coach, you won a championship. I'm hard on myself, and I was disappointed in my use of our second team, of our bench. And so I'd really like to evolve in that area and have more patience, and the ultimate goal is to win games, and that's what I was focused on last year, and whatever it took, however many minutes our starters had to play, we were going to do that. I think this year I'd really like to evolve roles much better, and we'll see how that goes.
Cheryl Reeve, head coach of the Minnesota Lynx. They will start their season here on May 20th against the Phoenix Mercury as they look to repeat as WNBA champions. Thank you for joining us, and good luck, and enjoy the last month before the draft. I'm sure you'll be losing some sleep that time, so get as much as you can now.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Head coach Cheryl Reeve of the Minnesota Lynx stopping by as we're about to conclude this intermission. Eastview leading St. Michael-Albertville 26-14. And the big story in that first half, of course, was Madison Giebert scoring 10 points for the Lightning.
Well, I think also, Mike, you have to keep in mind Paige Palkovich, all that she's meant to this Eastview offense here in this first half. She's been very active, certainly on the offensive end, whether it's been scoring or rebounding or finding the open person. I mean, she's really done it all for them in this first half anyway. STMA, which just came back out on the floor, they've got to find some consistency here in the second half, Mike. It just has not been happening from them. Whether it's been perimeter shooting or shots from the charity stripe. They've got to start finding some consistency, and they've got to do it from the get-go here in the second half.
They're down by 12, which isn't that much.
It
doesn't look like that with this being a low score so far, but 12 points is not a huge deficit.
It's not an insurmountable margin, but they certainly can't afford the inconsistent play that plagued them here in this first half. They've got to find some ways to score. I would think that one of those ways would be trying to get the ball into Rachel Valley, see if she can start doing some things inside. Perhaps getting some trips to the charity stripe as well. But they've got to find some consistency. That's got to be their theme here in the second half, I would think, Mike.
And off of that, with STMA, I just noticed we don't have stats. We don't have anybody running up stats for us. Well, maybe we can get Rich to go down there for us, perhaps.
Just saw Ruth Sims' son TJ walk down here with the St. Thomas cap.
St. Thomas is here, and
he just saw me.
Can you ask him to get stats for us?
I don't know. Might be a little late for that.
Well, we've got plenty of time. We got 20 seconds. I'm sure you can sprint. We do want to point out that if you want a DVD copy of this in any of our games today at Williams Arena or here, and this also includes the 1A quarters and the third place games on Saturday, just click the purchase DVD link on prep45.com. Prep 45, powered by GrandStadium.tv, your official online home for the Minnesota State High School League tournament coverage. And with STMA, I was going to say, they almost need to get an outside shot established, because unless they can find a way to break that Eastview inside defense, it's going to be very tough to make up a 12-point deficit.
And I think their point guard, Christine Thorne, the senior, I think she's done a very good job of running the team, but I also think that she's got to take a more active role in the scoring side of it. She hasn't put up a lot of shots, and she may have to from the perimeter here in the second half, Mike, if STMA is going to get this thing whittled down to single digits.
Christine Thorne, a member of an athletic family. We've talked about Rebecca Dahlman and Bram being part of a long line of basketball prodigies for the self-proclaimed pie capital of Minnesota. But Thorne's brothers all competed in wrestling for St. Michael-Albertville, and they have won state titles. We don't quite have a girls wrestling program established here, not a full one. And Hansen missing the three-pointer. Rebound, Madison Giebert, original starters on the floor for both teams. We talked about Rachel Valley. She will be heading to Bemidji State next year, a Division II member of the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. So she'll be playing the likes of Concordia, MSU Moorhead, MSU Mankato, St. Cloud State. I know you don't follow that as heavily as the MIAC, but
well, I do follow it some, so I know the teams there.
Our self-proclaimed Mr. MIAC here.
That I know a lot about.
Well, you talked about this yesterday off broadcast. Gustavus making a big coaching change next year. We do not have a backcourt violation. Giebert falls on it, jump ball, and Eastview will keep possession.
To the Lightning.
That run, when you mentioned that, Mike, that one really did take me by surprise yesterday. I was not expecting that.
Gustavus had finished second, and I talked to Ruth Sim, well, we both did, following the first two rounds of the NCAA Division III tournament, and Ruth was disappointed that Gustavus didn't get an invite.
Yeah, I was very disappointed about that, too. They certainly deserved a bid, I thought.
Well, we talked about it. The MIAC plays so many conference games because they have 12 members. It's hard to get any kind of measurement with outside teams. Although I read an article yesterday, Ryan missing the three-pointer, racing for the rebound, and it goes Oh, I thought it went off the hands of Van Wy.
I did too. But I think the MIAC is in the beginning stages of making some changes that will open up the non-conference possibilities, Mike, and that'll be something to watch here in the next couple, 2 or 3 years.
And I was going to say, on the D3 Hoop site, one advantage to playing so many conference games for St. Thomas, traveling violation on Thorn. Not a lot of video exists outside of the conference, so it makes St. Thomas a little harder to scout.
Yeah.
And even if you could scout them, they have a lot of ways to beat you. Taylor Young has been phenomenal in the tournament. Young, a graduate of Edina, who will be playing in the next game against Duluth East. Palkovich was rejected by Valley, but Eastview will maintain possession. And Young, the younger sister of Lauren Young, who tried her hand out of college basketball, decided to go elsewhere, went to Colorado State, went to Michigan for some time. And Edina, also the home of Jenny Johnson, the athletic director. She's on the broadcast crew for Channel 45. And so I wonder if Edina makes the semifinals. How objective do you think she'll be? No, she'll keep a straight face.
Yeah.
She knows there are bigger fish are watching this, so I'm sure she'll keep a straight face. I'm sure they all will. Palkovich is fouled.
And Palkovich, again, getting into the right place at the right time, creating something. Now another chance to go to the free throw line.
St. Michael-Albertville, 23.
Palkovich with 6 points.
Second half on the Knights. Palkovich will shoot 2.
We mentioned shooting just over 70% coming into this game, struggling a little bit today.
Eastview hasn't been infallible from the free throw line either, Mike. They've had a few struggles here this afternoon. Misses that one, both of them.
More tolerable, though, when you're up by 12.
Yeah.
Make that 11. Three-pointer for Thorn. I should say 9. 26-17. I'm going to work on my math after this.
And if STMA can get back into this game, Mike, look at the 15:30 mark of this contest being the turning point.
We'll see, but Young is open in the backdoor pass, and she's open, and the party has started. Van Wy driving, and again, Eastview clogging the paint. That's just not going to get it done.
Back in the game for the Knights, Hazen, number 4.
Interestingly, we've talked a lot about Palkovich. She averages just 5.2 a game, 4.4 rebounds a game.
Replacing Van Wy.
But, you know, sometimes it's more than the scoring and rebounding aspect. You know, it's passing, finding the right person. You know, it can be those little things that can be huge in a game, especially in a close game.
Thorn loses the ball, and a great double team there from Palkovich and Young.
Thorn had absolutely nowhere to go on that one, Mike.
And speaking of Young and the double team, she does that with Madison Giebert outside of games. Tyler Johnson back in for Eastview. She and Madison Giebert partner up for Eastview's special education program. Young actually leads that group called Best Buddies. She's the student coordinator, and they do certain activities for kids with mental or physical ailments. So like bowling, they're shopping at MOA, and mentoring. And it gives you a perspective of what some people may take for granted on occasion. Those who may not suffer from some type of physical or mental illness. Tyra Johnson too strong on the left elbow shot. And St. Michael-Albertville will get possession here. Thorn is stripped by Palkovich. She is open. Goodbye and one.
Basket is good by Palkovich.
Palkovich with 8.
Well, Palkovich, again, doing those small things, this time getting the steal and converting in transition. and a trip to the charity stripe as well now.
And I will say this, at least among the home schools, it's nice to see a huge contingency of support. We saw a huge crowd for Hopkins, larger than I think we had seen in any of the girls' basketball games last year, which I found to be a bit disappointing. Palkovich completes a three-point play. But with Hopkins and with Eastview at least, St. Michael-Albertville, not as big a crowd. They sent in the entire student body, it seems.
Yeah.
Well, not quite. There are 3,000 kids in Eastview.
And Valley running into a lot of traffic
Traveling
down low.
violation.
Wow.
And St. Michael-Albertville getting that welcoming to Class 4A, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not to say 3A wasn't tough, but 4A gets a little tougher.
Back in the game for St. Michael-Albertville, Westrom, number 41.
One of the discussions in 4A that was brought up earlier this month was potentially seeding the class.
Yeah.
Because they have enough schools, 63, 64, where they could run an NCAA-style tournament.
Yeah.
And so they brought in people like Kevin Anderson to...
Van Wy got her hand on that pass.
Yes, to metaphorically seed it. The matchups did not count, of course. The high school league went to their seeding format for the last few years, but it was a hypothetical scenario, and it got a lot of great reviews once people tested it out, so that may be something we see in future tournaments. Charge!
Wow.
Give credit to Nicole Westrom for putting her body on the line. Of course, the other discussion, the 100 years of basketball tournaments is being held this year, should say being celebrated. Girls haven't been around as long. 1976 is when I believe it became an official sport. St. Paul Central won the first pair of titles. But there's been a lot of discussion about who the best team is, and while that can be difficult because with high school, Thorne missing the three-pointer, rebound Palkovich, and a blocking foul is called on Thorne, that will be your second.
A case of trying to do too much there.
So continuing that discussion, there's this talk about who the best team is, and in some ways it's really hard to measure one team against another because of the changing nature of high school sports. The players are getting better, but you don't see the same crop of players year in and year like you see with the Minnesota Lynx. You know you're going to get Maya Moore and Simone Augustus and Lindsay Whalen and Brunson and Taj, and I could run all day with that. But with high school, Giebert for three, can't get the bounce, offensive rebound Mayer. She averages 6 a game.
You obviously you don't have the same continuity, at the high school level.
No.
So I mean that's something that's in flux from year to year.
I mean, St. Paul Central won 2 titles, but they haven't been back since 08. Just haven't had the rhythm to do so. A lot of folks thought Hopkins might be the best team this year, and if they hadn't lost to Wayzata, that might be a legitimate case. And even if they win this title, it could still be a legitimate case. But again, they played with a different set of parameters, different teams, different talent than St. Paul Central did back in their title run of 07.
Well, I think what makes you look at somebody like Hopkins, you not only look what they have right now, you look at the pipeline of players that they have coming in, on grades below them, and at the junior high level, who are working and trying to achieve to get to that level the next time when it happens for them.
Now, naturally, Willie Taylor will vouch for his team as the best ever. But it's almost a discussion. Amber Mayer with the mid-range J. And she gets on the board. That's her first field goal.
All of a sudden, STMA down 16. They've got to make some things happen on offense.
If they don't get a run, they're in trouble. And Rachel Valley going inside, the future Bemidji State Beaver. Beavers played against the Minnesota Golden Gophers in an exhibition game earlier this season. Mayer, no. Rebound, Westrom. If people ask me who I think the best team is, I would say I'm not qualified to discuss that. I've only covered high school basketball on a consistent level since the 06-07 campaign. And a lot of talk is focused on the recent teams. It seems like the locals here have ignored, Kevin Anderson and Tony and yourself probably wouldn't, but they've ignored the teams like, perhaps Minneapolis North in '98 when they won their first of 5 titles. They went undefeated.
What about Lakeville North from 10 years ago when they had Liz Podominic and Shelley Soul, now who's an assistant coach with Andy Berkram on the Lakeville North squad?
Megan Ryan was on the out-of-bounds line, so she turns it over to STMA. Lakeville North of 2010, they went undefeated, but they don't get talked about much, but you had the duo of Rochelle and Bantam, both Big Ten recruits. Woodbury and the one title for Dave Preller. And the bounce pass to Valley off target. Eastview possession.
Don't forget the Bloomington Kennedy squads from 05 and 06 that made it here. One of them, of course, they won state in 05.
Beating Hopkins. That was a fun rivalry. I can't say who the best team is because, again, the talent and the parameters of competition have been different.
Yep. Look at Osseo back in
2000?
2000, they had Hannah Pelto.
And the other difference in all this discussion, and I think many forget this, was the feet switched to halves a few years ago. Up until 2005, it was quarters. And so that changed parameters a bit. Amber Mayer missing the 14-footer. Rebound goes to Van Wy.
Osseo, of course, here again this year.
First appearance for head coach Joey Waters. I will have that game for you later today.
Of course, that Osseo team from 2000 with Pelto, Heather Bertram, and Lauren Podratz, an outstanding team.
Naturally, a lot of talk about Janet Karvinen and New York Mills. Karvinen, the first star among the stars, if you want to say, in girls basketball. But like I said, I don't feel qualified to discuss who the best team is. But I will say the best rivalry since I started following would have to be the Central South rivalry when those two met in 07 and 08.
That was a fun one to watch.
That drew the biggest crowds and the most enthusiasm, I believe, of any of the matchups we've seen.
I tell you, that was it was fun being at them, let me tell you.
And we haven't seen a city team appear since Minneapolis South in 2009, at least a public city team. Amber Mayer turns a broken play into a pair. She has 4 and Eastview up 35-19.
Well, we get closer and closer to this midway point of the second half, and we're still not seeing the consistency that is needed from this STMA team, Mike, if they want to get back into it.
Dorr misses from the right elbow, and Mayer with the rebound. Giebert directing traffic. That Central-South rivalry, I just don't think will be replicated unless we see teams of those calibers again, because you didn't just have the inner city rivalry going on and the proximity that other schools may not have. But you had 2 quality teams.
Exactly.
St. Paul Central, we talked about, are they the best ever? Whether or not they are, you had Angel Robinson, Georgie Jones, who unfortunately suffered an ACL and couldn't finish her career in Indiana. Ouch. Christine Thorne hits the floor hard, and thanks to Bernie Purick for providing those mics, we can hear just how hard she hit the floor.
No kidding.
Mayer in trouble, and a jump ball. Eastview gets possession.
And of course, we shouldn't get Kiara Buford.
And she will be playing on Friday with the WBI, and with that, if she does well enough, she has a chance to cross 1,500 points.
Let's hope the Gopher women can keep that one going.
If they win a few games, they would, and even if they don't, Rachel Banham has revitalized that program somewhat. Hasn't brought in the numbers in terms of attendance, but if it wasn't for her, I probably would have left my spot on press row at Williams Arena long before the season ended.
She brings a lot of energy and excitement to that Gopher program. And it's amazing to think that she was only a freshman this year, and think about what she's going to be bringing in the years to come.
And one player we forgot to mention, Eric Taylor, who was at your alma mater.
Yep, that's right, exactly. And who's been able to coming back, and of course they have a tough one on Sunday against Cal. That'll be a tough opening round match.
And while we're on that topic, how about the men's team winning the first round of the NIT last night?
Watch that last night. That was.
I had a feeling you would.
That was a good win for Fran McCaffrey's squad, and now they have a very tough task the next time, going out to Eugene, Oregon, to play the Ducks.
Is now on Facebook. For news and information about the league, search for MSHSL on Facebook and become a fan.
Of course, we'll be seeing a Iowa recruit later in our coverage, Callie Peschel from Sauk Center. Lisa Bluter has done a great job at finding the best players in state to go down to Iowa.
Well, she has quite a pipeline up here, and of course, John Sands and I were doing the play-by-play in the Constellation 3A Constellation when Callie Peschel hit that buzzer beater to win it.
You mean in 2A?
Or 2A, I mean, rather.
Hitting the three-pointer is Christine Thorne from the top of the key. STMA will take anything they can get. They're down by 13.
They've got to get some stops here now.
Mayer to Gieberts. Bullseye.
Three-point basket by Giebert.
Giebert with the Bakers dozen. I see Pam Borton in attendance. And with the response is Thorne. We're finally getting some fluid offense from STMA, but Eastview still holding on to their lead at 13, so they can afford to trade baskets.
Yeah.
STMA is going to need some stops. Amber Mayer driving through and is deflected.
I was just going to say, Mike, that's great that they've been opening it up here in the last couple of possessions, but they can't sit back and just be content to trade baskets with Eastview. They've got to get some stops.
I see Pam Borton in attendance, no doubt scouting. I wonder if she's looking at Giebert.
I see Michaela Bailey's mom, Peg, in attendance, sitting to Pam's right.
Giebert missing the three-pointer from the right. Amber Mayer with an offensive board. Is blocked from behind by Van Wy. It's clean. Palkovich picks it up. And a bump. They rule it incidental. No foul. And Wilson.
What a job by Amber Mayer on the offensive end, keeping that ball alive and giving Eastview chance after chance after chance here on this possession, right?
We talked about Bailey. She'll be going to Minnesota next year. And for those of you who want to see the Osseo White Bear Lake game, I will be bringing that to you later today. Just keep your eyes peeled. Joey Waters actually had some things to say about Bailey, because there was a lot of discussion on how or why Mayer's foul going to the line, why Bailey is considered Division I material. You look at her stats, it wouldn't suggest so. And so Waters had a few things to say about that, because there's been a lot of folks who have said Bailey's not going to amount to anything with the Gophers.
Well, I tell you, I've watched Michaela Bailey play not only during the regular season at Osseo, but in AAU, and she's a tremendous athlete and a tremendous player. And she certainly brings a lot to the table, not only for Osseo, but for the future as well with Minnesota.
Mayer missing the front end. Shoots about 75%. Gets the back end, and the Lightning are up by 14. 8:14 to go. STMA is going to need a run in the worst way to hang on and play tomorrow. That's not going to get it done. Steal by Mayer. Wilson to Young, and now Giebert looking at a double team, and they send Palkovich out to help.
Ooh, may have gotten away with an up or a shoulder on that one.
Young, 14-footers, too strong. Amber Mayer again.
Yeah.
A beast on the glass today.
You got that.
Palkovich to Mayer. Giebert for three. Off the rim, no good. And another offensive rebound. How the heck is Eastview getting so many second chances? STMA finally gets possession, but...
well, Amber Mayer has been the reason why. She's been very active on the offensive glass, giving the Lightning a lot of chances here. Still up double digits, but time now becoming an enemy of this STMA team.
Leading the way for the Knights is Thorne with the Baker's dozen.
Another bad pass.
Sloppy ball control has really affected STMA today. And we've noticed not as much scoring. Of course, teams are going to play a little more conservatively at the state tournament bracket because they know there's no shot clock. They know it's one and done. So if they have a sizable lead, they're going to play keep away.
Yeah.
But a less discussed point, the length of the court.
Yeah.
It's longer than high school. High school, it's 84 feet. Here, they play with the NBA dimension, so it's 94 feet. That can wear on you. Three-pointer by Amber Mayer.
That's another dimension that Amber Mayer has, that three-point shooting range.
Mayer undecided on a college, but her sister playing Division I basketball at South Dakota. Basketball runs in the family. And as you saw with that three-point shot, Amber Mayer just overall more confident than last year when she was more of a supporter to the Beckman twins and Doctor.
You mentioned Sam Mayer, a great player here at Eastview a few years ago. Thorne finally hits.
Hitting a tray from the left corner is Thorne. Thorne, the only player to get any kind of rhythm going. And Palkovich left alone. St. Michael-Albertville tried to press, and Palkovich can't put it down, and Eastview's lucky. They'll keep it. Thorne leading the way with 16 points. And STMA in a bit of trouble here. Giebert for three, no good. Eastview in the bonus for the remainder of this game. Amber Mayer, how did she put that in?
Well, that was a mirror pass here from Van Wy. And Amber Mayer was able to snare it and get the easy bucket.
Amber Mayer went from a goose egg in the first half to 10.
Ouch. That one hurt even up here, Mike.
Fouls on Bailey. Van Wy will go to the line.
Eastview fouled Wilson, number 5, her first, second team foul on the Lightning. Van Wy at the line, shooting 2.
Winner of this game, again, will play Hopkins tomorrow night in the semifinal round at 8 p.m., if I'm correct. Or 6, one of those two. They'll play in the night session, whatever happens.
Western 41.
One with the rim.
It's been a microcosm of STMA's woes here today, Mike. Missed free throws.
Van Wy leaving the free throw line empty-handed. Eastview will probably play more conservative now as we approach the last 5 minutes. They're up by 16, and unless a crazy Western Kentucky type run happens here, I don't think Eastview is going to be heading home today. Mayer, a nice feed to Wilson, but she puts too much air on the short-range bunny.
That or BYU, one of the two. Well,
These few players took the words right out of my mouth. They couldn't if it wasn't for those basket mics.
You get a real feel for what it's like down there, the sounds.
Sounds of the game. Provided by Accolade Audio Services. Hannah Shy. Shot was altered by Valley, but time is running out here on the Knights. They certainly weren't getting blown out like they did against Kennedy, the only common opponent between the two teams. But I think the tough thing for St. Michael-Albertville and a lot of the schools that don't play in a section with metro area teams, they just don't get the same caliber of talent. Westrom goes down to the floor, and she will shoot a pair.
Well, and that's true. And you know, when you finally do face an opponent, you know, from the metro area, you know, with quality opponent like Eastview, you know, you have to play an almost error-free game, a very pristine game to have a real chance. And, you know, the missed free throws that they've had today have really cost this team. You know, 16 points or 15 points now But think how much closer this game could be had they made some of those free throws in the first half, Mike.
Westrom gets on the board, so she will make the newspaper tomorrow, and will probably, well, maybe we'll make, well, she'll make the box score on the websites tonight. And gets a friendly bounce, so she'll be sending a thank you card to the rim after this game. St. Michael-Albertville in that Section 8, one of two sections that, again, doesn't play a lot of teams inside the Metro. The other, Duluth East, the other section champion. And there was some concern as Westrom is fouled, and the basket it counts. It's not over yet. STMA, a lot of work to do, but they're not out of this by any stretch of the means.
45 Bear back in for Eastview. Replacing Shy.
Melissa Giebert makes the change at the post, bringing Amber Mayer back in.
By Westrom, she shoots one.
Three-point play is good. And hold off on those subs. We're not done yet. Just over 4 to play.
And, oh, another turnover.
Palkovich went off her foot, and Mayer tried to wrap up Bebo, can't do it. STMA can't be too patient now. They're going to have to get some opportunities where they can find them, and Thorne just a little too wild. Tried to draw the charge, can't do it. STMA pressing, that leaves Emily Young open on the other end for the layup. Young with 6. Three-pointer good by Jordan Hansen. Deficit is 10, 46-36.
Well, STMA willing to roll the dice here a little, Mike.
Fouled is Giebert.
And you almost have to when you're down double digits in less than 5 minutes to go.
Again, STMA out of fouls to give, so Giebert will shoot free throws. It was ruled a shooting foul.
Number 31 for third, 17th foul on the Knights. 22, Giebert at the line.
Giebert, a sharpshooter for Eastview this season, making close to 90%. And I jinxed her.
One with the rim.
Ooh.
All right, I'll be getting an angry letter from the Giebert family after this. Mayer, pump fakes the 3. Again, Eastview doesn't have to rush. They're in control and they're backing out. They can eat up clock. And Melissa Giebert will call a timeout with 3:03 to discuss that.
Smart timeout, I think, by Melissa Giebert here, Mike. Get her team settled down a little bit. STMA's made a run at them. Cut this thing down to 10 points now. Now is the time to get her team settled down. Tell them what they need to do here in the half court. You know, take control of the ball. That's just a smart move by a very smart coach.
Who, as we talked about, got a lot of training. In Eastview, a nice story, as you can see in their huddle, the smallest member of the bunch, name is Michael Sheridan. I had the chance to meet him last year. A sentimental favorite among the team. They have a practice routine where they come and touch his head. You know, he's not that tall.
Yep.
He suffers from an ailment. I
Yep.
can't recall what it was, or what it is, but I think it gives them a perspective for players like Giebert and Young who volunteer and work with Eastview Special Education Program. Sheridan has been with this team for quite a while and just a very heartwarming figure for the Lightning.
Yeah, he really
a source
is.
of inspiration.
I saw him, of course, this last week, and they consider him one of the team. You know, he's just very emotional part of the squad.
3:03 left. Once again, prep45.com will have all quarterfinal matches for you. And click the purchase DVD link if you wish to obtain a copy of this and all of our state tournament games. And that includes the simulcast from Prep 45 or KSTC Channel 45 from the semifinal round to the championships. Dave Lee and Leah B. Olson will have the action for you. Ryan. Mayer has it now. Big day on the boards for her.
Certainly in the second half alone.
Eastview doing exactly what they should. Charge!
Good possession there.
Madison Giebert will be tagged for the foul. That's her third. No player in big foul trouble yet for Eastview. And Westrom again, risking the limb and extremities. It's not over yet. STMA is going to need baskets, though. That won't do it. But an offensive rebound by Westrom. She's in trouble. And Henry calls a timeout. Basket does not count. He had 2 left. He has 1 plus a 30.
Timeout, St. Michael-Albertville.
That was the right call, though.
Yeah.
Get the bailout timeout call, reset some things, because, again, there's still time.
I tell you, Westrom, the 5'9" junior for this STMA squad, Mike, she's really come alive here in the second half, doing a lot of things, not only scoring, but taking the charge, as we just saw down there, doing any little thing she can to help get her team back into this.
St. Michael-Albertville looking to achieve history of their own. We've been talking about history with the 100 years of basketball tournaments. The Knights won in Class 2A back in 1991 when they had the 2-class format. They beat St. Paul Harding to do it, the team that had Shannon Loveline, Kara Pearson, and Willie Taylor as an assistant coach. Tom Gunderson, the head coach. Those two have switched roles since, of course. They won in Class 3A twice, in 06 and, of course, in 09. So they're looking to be the first team to win in 3 different classes in the span of 15 years. Again, that's a tall order at this point, but anything is possible.
That's quite an impressive accomplishment just to win titles in 2 different classes.
It's not easy. We've seen other schools go up and down. Minnehaha Academy was a state tournament participant in 3A and 2A. Payson with the backdoor layup. It's an 8-point margin. Again, Eastview still in control. They can play the possession game. But free throws not a guarantee, so St. Michael-Albertville may want to consider playing foul and chase here.
These last 2 minutes are going to seem like an eternity for head coach Melissa Giebert. I can tell you that much, Mike.
And I'm looking at the fouls. 2 of your players on the floor. Payson and, well, that's not what you wanted to do. Palkovich with the layup. I was going to say Payson and Hansen had no fouls. I'm surprised.
Hansen just took an inadvertent elbow to the nose or mouth. I can't tell, but she's coming off. Might be bleeding. I can't tell. Happened out there in the back court when she was defending and took an inadvertent shot.
And not the best of defensive sequences for Eastview. Or I should say St. Michael-Albertville. Again, I was going to say, I'm surprised they didn't look at the foul and chase strategy a little earlier. And then they do foul, but it comes a little too late. As Palkovich scored the layup, and effectively, with the timing rules, I think that puts this game away for Eastview.
Well, 1:47 left. I mean, you consider you convert on these free throws here.
Looks like there was blood on the floor, so Target Center staff will clean that up. Safety hazard, of course, we can't have that. And a free timeout, effectively, for both teams. Or maybe it's immediate timeout. Maybe they found a way to sneak them in.
Hansen took that shot out there in the backcourt when she was on defense, and you could tell she was in some distress as that play continued. But you figure, Mike, you make these 2 free throws here, make it a 12-point game again, and then if you're head coach Ken Hammer, you're going to be forced to be jacking up threes from here on out if you want to even have a ghost of a chance.
Palkovich completes the three-point play. She now has 10, a quiet 10. And St. Michael-Albertville now having to race the clock. And Eastview's defense smothering any open looks in the lane. Now they get an open three. Swish. Christine Thorne.
Ooh, and Thorne went for the steal and just missed.
It's an 8-point game again. STMA's got to look to foul here now. They're running out of time. They're trying to get the steal. And again, Melissa Giebert bails out her Lightning with another timeout. She has 2 remaining.
Had to bail out her daughter on that one. Boy, she was in a ton of trouble on that.
And that's probably why St. Michael-Albertville wasn't willing to foul. I don't know if they got to look at her stat line, but Giebert, an expert free throw shooter. Like I said, I know you're trying to get the steal and convert points without fouling, but we've seen free throws not being a guarantee here and a lot of difficulties on both ends.
Yeah.
I would consider that strategy.
Yeah.
Of course, it's easier said than done when 3 of your players have 3 fouls.
Yeah,
Van Wy and Rottenberger and Thorne, but you've seen how free throws have gone. You saw what happened in the first game.
Yep.
But it's easy to be the Monday morning coach from up here. Less than a minute now. And now they foul.
Western with a foul there.
And unfortunately, they foul Giebert, who is the team's best free throw shooter, even though she missed in her first trip.
Western number 41, her third, 19 foul on the Knights. Keep Mike Valley back in for St. Michael-Albertville.
Hanson still being attended to down there at the bench. Getting some cotton on that nose. Looks like she's going to be all right, though.
Madison Giebert will pad her total.
One off the rim.
They have corrected Palkovich's scoring total. She has 12. Giebert leads with 15. But as we talked about in the open, Eastview getting the job done, getting their support from Giebert. Thorne missing the three-pointer. That should just about do that.
Yep.
51-41. Eastview leading, and it looks like they're going to have a date with Hopkins. They did play against Hopkins earlier this season and got crushed 64-22. I don't think we're going to see a second blowout like that, but
well, obviously on paper, I mean, it's
on paper. I think a lot of folks have bailed Hopkins a trophy already.
Yeah. But at the same time, when you play a team the second time, at least you have a little better idea, and you're a little more experienced too. That game was early on in the season. A lot has changed, from November or December.
Another note: if you're going to play basketball, do not pass to John Millay, the media specialist for the Minnesota State High School League. It's going to be a different scenario this second time around between Eastview and Hopkins, but I just don't see how Hopkins can lose this.
Yeah.
That's not to say the rest of the teams are terrible. Just, again, if you're going to get Hopkins, you're going to have to give them
you would
the best
almost,
game you've ever played.
Yeah, you would have to play an almost perfect game and then have a few things go your way as well. It is possible, though. I mean, you can't just hand somebody the trophy and say, well, it's yours.
We saw what happened when we did that for Minneapolis South a few years back.
Yeah, exactly.
In 2008. Tony will never let me forget that, but then I got my vengeance on him. The following year, he had Minneapolis North winning the 3A title, and St. Michael-Albertville had other ideas.
Yep.
Eastview will go on to play Hopkins, where they'll get a rematch and hopefully vengeance against the predominant favorite in 4A, ranked in the top 10 in the state in the Max Preps poll. I believe they're 5th.
Fifth foul has been called on that
And that's
line, number 22.
even with losing Shackelford to an ACL tear.
Yeah. That made their slope a little more slippery.
Replacing Van Wine. Alkovich at the line. 2 shots.
And we were talking about the best teams ever, as I'm seeing up on the video board. I don't want to forget Rochester Mayo and the Miller Twins.
Exactly.
The unsung heroes.
Of course, there's Bloomington Kennedy in 05 at
Overtime win over Hopkins.
yeah, the overtime win. Tasha Morosak was on that team.
But I want to get the Miller Twins, and I'm sure I will in the next couple of games. But I want to get them in now because I know the folks at Rochester and at Georgia wouldn't like it if I left them out.
Yep.
Like I said, kind of unsung heroes because they didn't play college basketball here like Wayland did. And one of them did play for the Lynx, Kelly Miller, but she didn't hang around long. But they still have Minnesota roots, and they're still very proud of their origins. Time winds down. Eastview wins 54-41. They move on to play Hopkins. St. Michael-Albertville goes home, and just not enough rhythm consistently for St. Michael-Albertville in this game.
It was the consistency thing. They did some good things late, but they were already in a pretty big hole. They did get it down to 8 points, but you wonder, Mike, they've been able to convert some of those free throw opportunities that they had in the first half. This game could have been a lot tighter, obviously.
Now, I know this is tape delay, but looking ahead for Eastview Hopkins, what do you expect as you've seen both teams today?
Well, I think this Hopkins team, they've been in some close battles. Of course, they won that exciting section final against Hart. I think this is a team that'll be much more confident going in to face Hopkins the second time tomorrow. Of course, everybody will favor Hopkins, but Eastview will definitely be more confident.
Final score has been amended, 55-41, but the important thing is Eastview's going on to compete in the semifinal round against Hopkins in the 4A bracket. Coming up, it's Duluth East and Edina in the second half of the 4A bracket. Rich Carlson will have that game for you along with Alex Nagel. And if you want a copy of this program on DVD, just click the Purchase DVD link on the Prep 45 screen. For everyone here at Prep45.com, I'm Mike Peden. Thank you for watching.